the increasing challenge of how to house the growing numbers of city residents, coming up with novel payment methods can actually make the difference of getting people the housing that they desperately need. So what if a housing complex offset its low rent with daily prayers for the founder? You're listening to Tall Stories, a Monocle production brought to you by the team behind The Urbanist. I'm Andrew Tuck. In this episode, Valerie Hamilton takes us to the world's oldest public housing complex still in use, which has a very unique payment system.
The Fuggerei is a short walk from the center of Augsburg, but its quiet, cobbled streets feel more like a medieval village or a medieval gated community where steeply gabled two-story row houses, each split into tidy 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, look out over little gardens, squares, a fountain. There's a chapel with a stonework relief of St. Mark over the entrance. Just across, there's a beer garden. We are in Bavaria, after all. There are 140 apartments with 150 people living here, mostly young families or seniors on their own. But over the 500 years this place has been going, thousands of needy Augsburgers have called it home. The Fuggerei is named for its founder, the 16th century copper baron and banking trailblazer Jakob Fugger. The Fugger family were wealthy merchants in Augsburg in the late medieval period, and Jakob, a banker to emperors and popes, is sometimes known as the world's first capitalist. Historians estimate his net worth at hundreds of billions of dollars in today's money, which would make him one of the wealthiest people who ever lived. His nickname, even today, is Jakob the Rich, all of which makes him an unlikely affordable housing pioneer. But there's another critical part to his story. Jakob wasn't just rich, he was devoutly religious. But his business practices, especially charging interest, didn't always jibe with church doctrine. And while Jakob Fugger believed in making a buck, like other Catholics of his day, he believed he would pay for his sins with his immortal soul. Jakob tried to invest his way out of this spiritual problem like the business person he was. He hired a theologian to argue a faith-based case for charging interest. He named St. Ulrich, the long-dead patron saint of Augsburg, as a partner in his company. And he invested in charitable works to balance out his sins in the church's spiritual bookkeeping and help keep his soul in the black. That's where the Fuggerei comes in. As a charitable work, the Fuggerei was investment at scale. In 16th century Europe, there were no affordable housing projects. Poor people without a home might find shelter at an almshouse. Debtors might go to prison, beggars to the street. The idea of building 140 private, multi-room apartments for poor working families was a totally new concept, and Jakob envisioned it at grand scale. Construction started in 1517, and the first families moved in not long after. There were, and still are, 3 requirements for admission. Residents of the Fuggerei have to be financially needy, they have to be from Augsburg, and they have to be Catholic. Their rent was set at a modest 1 Rhenish guilder a year, about 2 weeks' wages for the people who would live there. The Fuggerei wasn't going to make a profit, but it guaranteed returns. Because on top of the rent, residents of the Fuggerei were, and still are, obliged to say 3 prayers a day in honor of Jakob Fugger and his descendants. 1 Our Father, 1 Ave Maria, and 1 Apostles' Creed. Multiply 3 prayers a day by maybe 200 residents, by 365 days, and now by more than 500 years. That's a lot of credit toward Fugger's spiritual debts. So, not such a bad investment after all. For the people who live there, it has paid off too. Through the Reformation, the Renaissance, empires, republics, and 2 world wars, the cost of living keeps going up, but not the rent at the Fuggerei. That's because although first capitalist Jakob Fugger was a banking whiz, there's one thing he appears to not have counted on: inflation. The Fuggerei's rent was set for perpetuity. Today, 1 Rhenish guilder comes out to 88 euro cents a year, or about 7 cents a month in rent, which makes the Fuggerei not just the world's oldest affordable housing project, but probably the most affordable.
Tall Stories is a Monocle production from the team behind The Urbanist. This episode was written by Valerie Hamilton and produced and edited by David Stevens. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive new episodes every week. I'm Andrew Tuck. Goodbye, And thanks for listening, City Lovers.